Hello and welcome to Firstpost America, your home for the biggest stories shaping the US and the world. I'm Cary, Johnston, live from the Firstpost studios. Our top story on the show today. The US makes a shocking claim about a secret Chinese nuclear test as the world holds its breath over another arms race. Also on the program, Trump refuses to apologize as he faces a bipartisan backlash over a racist image targeting the Obamas. New York City is submerged in snow and trash. So how does Mayor Mamdani's street stay spotless? And the secret world of forbidden media in North Korea. What happens if you're caught watching the wrong show? What if a country detonated a nuclear weapon and the world didn't realize? No warning, no mushroom cloud and no panic. Just an explosion buried deep underground and a silence that lasted for years. Well, now the United States is breaking that silence. It's accusing China of doing something that could shake global security to its core. America is claiming that China carried out a secret nuclear test in June 2020. The accusation was made by Thomas DiNanno, America's Undersecretary of State for Arms Control and International Security. He was speaking at a global disarmament conference in Vienna. He said the US government is aware that China has conducted nuclear explosive tests with a power of hundreds of tons. Well, no evidence was publicly presented and no technical data was shared. But the date itself is concerning because June 2020 was also the month of the Galwan Valley clashes. 20 Indian soldiers were killed in action in eastern Ladakh, while intelligence assessments reported more than 30 Chinese troops dead. If the allegation is true, it means China may have been testing nuclear capability during one of the most dangerous phases of the India-China border crisis in decades. DiNanno also accused China of trying to conceal the test using a technique called decoupling.
I can reveal that the U.S. government is aware that China has conducted nuclear explosive tests, including preparing for tests with designated yields in the hundreds of tons. The PLA sought to conceal testing by obfuscating the nuclear explosions because it recognized these tests violate test ban commitments. China has used decoupling, a method to decrease the effectiveness of seismic monitoring to hide their activities from the world.
So the US is suggesting China tested nuclear weapons and tried to make sure the world never noticed. But China has not directly admitted or denied the accusation. Its ambassador on disarmament, Shen Chuan, said Beijing has always acted responsibly and accused the US of hyping up a China nuclear threat. Well, meanwhile, the head of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, or CTBT, said they didn't detect any event consistent with a nuclear test on the alleged date. But there's a bigger issue too, as the allegation comes just one day after the New START treaty expired, the last remaining arms control agreement between the United States and Russia. It means that the world's two biggest nuclear powers have no binding nuclear limits for the first time in years. Donald Trump now wants a new nuclear arrangement involving Russia and China, arguing that a bilateral treaty is no longer sufficient.
Look, the president's been pretty clear that he wants a better agreement. As we all know, New START expired yesterday. The president clarified again last night that he wants a new treaty. And look, in a nutshell, New START was flawed. It didn't cover theater range nuclear weapons, and it didn't include China. Look forward to being here today. Thank you all very much.
The US predicts China will have over 1,000 warheads by 2030, while China claims it has around 600, compared to roughly 5,000 each for the US and Russia. Together, these two countries control around 90% of the world's nuclear warheads. So a vital treaty has expired, accusations are flying, and nuclear arsenals may start to grow. The world could be heading into a future where nuclear deterrence may no longer be monitored in full sight. The question is, Could it be happening in ground-shaking secrecy? Well, for more on this, we have Jonas Perello-Plesner, a foreign policy expert, joining us live from Copenhagen in Denmark. Welcome to the programme. How credible do you think it is that China may have tested an underground nuclear device just a few years ago?
Well, I think we've seen over the years that China has been sort of working on their old test site where they did their test back in the 1960s and 70s during the Cold War when they developed nuclear weapons in the first instance. Satellite images have shown that. And I think at least we will have to take these allegations from the US very, very serious that this could have happened back in 2020. And definitely what is certain is that China is rapidly developing their nuclear arsenal and does not want to be sort of bound by any sort of agreements and any restrictions on that. So we're basically entering a world where the great powers are much more unrestrained when it comes to nuclear.
And how do you see then the expiring of the New START treaty? Is there likely to be another one negotiated at some point?
Well, as the Undersecretary Dinano said, from the US side, they would like to see a sort of treaty that encompasses not just Russia, but also China. That keep doing only bilateral treaties with Russia has its meaning, but has maybe kind of lost its significance with China rapidly expanding. And also with the cooperation that we increasingly see between China and Russia when it comes to nuclear. So in that sense, there's also an alignment there. But of course, for everybody else, it makes a potentially more dangerous world with less constraints and armed controls on nuclear use. We have seen, being a European, we've seen, of course, Vladimir Putin, the leader of Russia, being much more sort of threatening and menacing about the potential use of nuclear in connection to the war in Ukraine. So, of course, this all, in that sense, is bad for the world that we've had nuclear weapons for decades, but we also had restraint and arms treaties to regulate it.
And what will China's view be on all this then, as it continues to flex its political, economic, and maybe military muscles?
Well, right now they're denying it. Plus, they're, of course, very much playing sort of the card that they're responsible stakeholder. This is all about the US trying to sort of hype the China threat. So I think it's important that we would have sort of a good factual verification also by international bodies of this potential test. I think I heard that the US said that China potentially have tampered with seismic data as well. So I think there needs to be a full international investigation into this. And of course, if that's the case and it can be shown that China is sort of in violation of international norms on this, then they have to be called out for it.
We'll leave it there. Jonas Perello-Plesner, thank you very much indeed for your insights. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Donald Trump often breaks big news on his Truth Social platform. He's constantly posting announcements, threats, trade wars, campaign messages meant to create maximum publicity. And just as often, his posts draw anger and backlash. Well, late last week, a video that included racist imagery of former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama was shared on Truth Social. They were shown as apes. Well, the post remained online for 12 hours. Plenty of time to be seen and shared. So by the time it was deleted, screenshots were everywhere. The storm had already started. And when asked about it, Trump showed no regrets. He refused to apologize and said he did not make a mistake.
Mr. President, a number of Republicans are calling on you to apologize for that post. Is that something you're going to do?
No, I didn't make a mistake. I mean, I look at a lot of thousands of things. I looked at the beginning of it, it was fine. They had that one post, and I guess it was a takeoff. By the way, a lot of people covered, if you look at where it came from, I guess it was a takeoff on The Lion King. And certainly it was a very strong post in terms of voter fraud. Nobody knew that was at the end. If they would have looked, they would have seen it. And probably they would have had the sense to take it down.
The video included claims of election fraud, attacks on Democrats and conspiracies about the 2020 US vote. Then near the end came a brief clip where Barack and Michelle Obama's faces were altered and superimposed onto bodies of monkeys. By Friday night, the backlash was impossible to ignore. Speaking to reporters aboard the Air Force One, Trump said he had not seen the offensive part of the clip. He said he only watched the opening section the part that focused on election fraud. He also accused staff members of making the error and claimed they also didn't watch the entire video before it was made public.
Mr. President, media post that you took down earlier today, the White House says that a staffer sent it. Who sent it, and are you going to fire them?
I looked at it, I saw it, and I just looked at the first part. It was about voter fraud in someplace, Georgia. There was a lot of voter fraud, 2020 voter fraud, and I didn't see the whole thing. I guess during the end of it, there was some kind of a picture that people don't like. I wouldn't like it either, but I didn't see it. I looked at the first part, and it was really about voter fraud in and the machines, how crooked it is, how disgusting it is. Then I gave it to the people. Generally, they look at the whole thing, but I guess somebody didn't, and they posted, and we took it down, and we did it. You know, but that was a voter fraud that nobody talks about. They don't like to talk about that post. We took it down as soon as we found out about it.
Inside the White House, the response shifted over time. At first, officials brushed aside the criticism. The press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, called the outrage fake. She described the video as a meme, one that portrays Trump as the king of the entire jungle and Democrats as cartoon characters. But that explanation didn't last for long. Trump faced major bipartisan resistance. Democrats condemned the imagery and pointed to the Obamas' place in history, the first black president and First Lady of the United States. Former Vice President Kamala Harris accused the White House of backpedaling. What stood out was the response from within Trump's own party. Senator Tim Scott, the only black Republican in the Senate, called the video blatantly racist. He said it was the most offensive thing he has seen come from the White House. Another Republican senator, Roger Wicker, also broke ranks, saying the post was unacceptable. He said the president should apologize. Civil rights groups say the image reinforces prejudice.
This racist image that we saw that came from the president's social media account is just another reminder of how much work needs to be done to combat centuries-old racist images and stereotypes about Black people, and how we have to continue to affirm our dignity, our humanity, and also celebrating our accomplishments.
There's been no comment from Barack or Michelle Obama. They've maintained their dignity. In the past, Trump has questioned Obama's citizenship and championed the birther conspiracy, where he asserted that some of his political rivals were not born in the US. More recently, he has been using AI-generated images for political messaging. Several of those have also sparked a backlash. Well, the post might have lasted just hours, but its impact may last a lot longer as Americans question the ethics of Trump's media machine and where the public and the administration believe the lines should be drawn. Well, still to come on the program, hopping into controversy as President Trump breeds a political storm by criticizing Bad Bunny's Super Bowl performance. But first, we shift our focus to New York. A brutal cold spell has tightened its grip on New York City, and the impact has been severe. The death toll has climbed to 18. As freezing winds, icy streets and bitter nights make life harder, especially for those forced to step outside. Last Friday, emergency responders pulled 3 men from icy waters in Queens in a dramatic helicopter rescue. Witnesses said the victims had been walking across a frozen bay when the ice gave way, submerging them in freezing waters. Well, the deep freeze has been relentless, driven by repeated waves of Arctic air. Snow from recent storms still sits across the city, while ice has hardened on sidewalks and rooftops. Simple daily tasks now feel risky, and even a short walk can turn dangerous in seconds. New York City's newly elected mayor, Zohran Mamdani, has urged residents to stay indoors if possible.
But we need every New Yorker to be on alert, looking out for their neighbors. The city remains in code blue, which means that we are intensifying outreach, that we are conducting round-the-clock checks, and have loosened traditional shelter intake procedures to accommodate as many New Yorkers as possible. Please stay indoors when you are able to, stay inside, and stay warm.
But the cold is only part of the story. More than a week after Winter Storm Fern dumped over a foot of snow, the aftermath is still visible across the city. Dirty snow piles continue to block roads, bike lanes, and sidewalks. In parts of Brooklyn, power outages added to the chaos after melting snow and road salt damaged underground systems. Crews faced difficulty restoring electricity as frozen manholes slowed down repair work. And then there is another growing problem. Trash is piling up across several neighborhoods. Garbage bags are sitting on sidewalks for days, slowly turning into large heaps. And rats have begun appearing around the waste. And the smell is spreading through the streets. Some say it feels like the city is submerged under snow.
The snow, I think it's like obnoxious because there's too much and we can't get out of the house unless we have to shovel or like do anything.
Yet just a few blocks away, the picture looks very different. At Gracie Mansion, the mayor's official residence, sidewalks are clear and the streets, well, they look clean. The snow has been removed and garbage is nowhere in sight. That contrast has caught people's attention. New Yorkers nearby say their own streets remain covered in trash and slush, while the area around the mayor's home appears spotless and the frustration is slowly building. Many now say that promise feels distant as the mess continues in their neighborhoods. They see workers clearing some areas, but not enough where they live. Mayor Mamdani, though, has promised to keep the city clean and moving.
Extreme weather is not a personal failure, but it is a public responsibility. If we have the resources to act, we have the obligation to act. And we are mobilizing every resource at our disposal to ensure that New Yorkers are brought indoors during this potentially lethal weather event. We will also make sure we remain upfront and transparent with our city, just as we have over the past week.
For a new administration, this winter has come as an early test. Temperatures may start to rise in the coming days, and people are hoping for relief. But for now, New York feels buried under ice, waste and worry. And as the freeze slowly loosens its grip, the question remains, will the city bounce back quickly? Or is this winter exposing problems that will take much longer to clear? Now imagine facing death for watching a TV show. We're not talking about some dystopian Netflix series. In North Korea, this is the reality for many. According to accounts shared with Amnesty International, North Korean citizens, including school children, are allegedly being executed for watching foreign media. That includes the popular series Squid Game. Amnesty International says information comes from 25 in-depth interviews with North Koreans, including 11 who escaped between 2009 and 2020. Most were aged between 15 and 25 years old when they fled. Their testimonies describe a country where foreign media is treated like poison. And this is not the first time such a claim has surfaced. An execution linked to distributing Squid Game was previously documented in North Hamgyong province in 2021. Amnesty says the report suggests there may have been multiple executions connected to the show.
The authorities criminalize access to information in violation of international law, then allow officials to profit off those fearing punishment. This is repression layered with corruption, and it most devastates those without wealth or connections.
And it doesn't stop at dramas. Escapees also describe the dangers of listening to foreign music, especially K-pop. Bands like BTS were specifically mentioned. Amnesty also says punishment is not equal. Your fate depends on your wealth and status. Poor citizens face the harshest penalties, including death, while those from influential families can sometimes avoid execution by bribing officials. Some families reportedly sell their homes to gather $5,000 to $10,000 just to pay bribes and avoid so-called re-education camps. The testimonies also describe public executions being used as ideological education. Then there is a specialized police unit called the 109 Group. Interviewees said this unit aggressively hunts foreign content, carrying out home raids, street searches and phone checks without warrants. Despite this crackdown, South Korean content still enters North Korea. People secretly watch Korean dramas that have become global hits. North Korea's harsh response against South Korean media is driven by a 2020 law called the Law on the Elimination of Reactionary Thought and Culture. It criminalizes South Korean content and mandates 5 to 15 years of forced labor for watching or possessing it. Distributing large amounts can carry the death penalty. So, the next time you casually scroll through a series or play some K-pop, reflect a moment that for some, doing just that could lead to death. Because what North Korea fears most is not weapons, not armies, not even sanctions. It fears something far more powerful, a glimpse of freedom. Because once its people start watching the outside world, they may start wanting to live in it. Our final story today is about Bad Bunny's halftime performance at the Super Bowl. Because for 14 minutes, the Puerto Rican rapper took to the stage at one of the world's biggest sporting events in front of millions. But then Donald Trump hopped online. The president posted that the show was absolutely terrible and complained that nobody understands a word this guy is saying. Well, suddenly, the show became more than just entertainment. Here's our report.
The loudest reaction to Super Bowl 60's halftime show did not come from the stadium. It came from Donald Trump's phone. As Puerto Rican global star Bad Bunny performed a Spanish-language set in Clara, the U.S. president posted on Truth Social, calling it absolutely terrible and a slap in the face to the country. The president, who skipped the event, wrote that nobody understood a word Bad Bunny said. He also criticized the choreography as inappropriate for children. The president also used the moment to again criticize the NFL's new kickoff rule. Trump, however, was hardly a solo act. A chorus of conservative commentators and political figures quickly piled on, turning the halftime show into a full-blown culture war watch party online. Some argued the language and tone didn't reflect what they called traditional American culture. Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Justice, Hermeet Dillon, posted a particularly sharp message, while others lamented that America deserved better in its 250th year. The criticism grew increasingly theatrical as it traveled across social media. One viewer branded the performance an abomination. Another insisted the Super Bowl, the most American moment on TV, should be entirely in English. For roughly 13 to 14 minutes, Bad Bunny delivered one of the most culturally specific productions the Super Bowl has hosted. The set leaned heavily into Puerto Rican imagery. Appearances from Ricky Martin and Lady Gaga, alongside cameos from Cardi B, Pedro Pascal, Karol G, and Jessica Alba set the tone perfectly. Bad Bunny saved his most deliberate statement for the finale. He closed the set with Café Con Ron, and in a moment that felt carefully scripted rather than accidental, spoke his first and only English words of the entire performance. God bless America. Instead of stopping there, he began naming countries across Latin America, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Colombia, Venezuela, the Dominican Republic, Cuba, and more, before finally adding USA, Canada, and ending once again with Puerto Rico. Then he held up a football to the camera, written across it, "Together we are America." Then he spiked it. As he walked off stage, the stadium screens delivered the closing line, "The only thing stronger than hate is love." His performance also had immigration undertones. One sequence added further political interpretation. One act in his set included a child receiving a Grammy trophy, which online viewers speculated referenced a widely reported immigration detention case involving a 5-year-old boy who was held at a Texas detention center. Though unconfirmed, the moment intensified discussion around immigration and Latino identity. By the end of the night, the football score mattered less than the cultural divide the performance exposed. The show itself never mentioned politics, but Trump's live criticism combined with the symbolism embedded in the performance turned 14 minutes of music into a national conversation about language, immigration, and identity. In other words, the halftime show didn't enter politics. Politics entered the halftime show.
That's it on the program. We'll be back tomorrow at the same time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.